Everybody, welcome to my web class tonight, capturing your summer memories like a pro. My name is Ingrid Owens, and thank you so much for joining me. It's great that we can use this wonderful technology to share and to get some training in, and it's just reach across the world. And I have taught this way for many years, but it always amazes me how much we can get in touch with people and reach people from every corner of our world with our training. So tonight we are going to be talking some general tips and some specific stuff on how to really capture your summer memories like a pro. And by like a pro, I mean just that we can get your pictures from just, kind of blah and just kind of normal to something pretty special. So I want to make sure you feel welcome here. We have the video, we have the chat here. You're hearing two audios. Maybe you have two browsers windows open, Pamela. You might want to shut off if it's coming up on YouTube as well. I hope we get okay sound. Should be okay. I'm going to keep going. If anybody else has sound problems, let me know in the chat box. But unfortunately, there's not much I can do other than to get the replay tomorrow. Sometimes we do have problems just with connection issues. But anyhow, let's keep moving. And like I said, there will be a recording. So welcome to class. And I don't know, you're in the right place. I just want to make sure that you're in the right classroom. And I want to let you know that you are in the right place if you want to take better photos this summer. And you really want to take those photos that represent how summer really felt. So many times we get caught up with, just every running here and there, running to camps. I mean, I know for me, I have two kids and I'm running around, and the summer is awesome, but it goes by so fast. We don't actually get a chance to get the pictures that we want that really convey how it was or how everything felt like. You're in the right place if you have tried shooting in automatic and it just doesn't deliver the goods. Now, any of my students that are on the line here, and I know there's quite a few of you here, if you if you've been shooting in auto, you know that I'm not a fan of auto, and because it just doesn't deliver the goods. You'll end up getting frustrated with auto. You end up getting not the type of photos you want, and they're certainly lacking in any kind of feeling or standoutness from the rest of the crowd. If you have tried reading your camera manual, then you are in the right place. But as I say here, let's get real. Ain't nobody got time for that. And it still doesn't improve your photos. So even if you have been a good student, reading your manual, trying to do everything, you probably find that it still hasn't made an impact on your pictures. But don't worry, I've got you covered in this class, whether you're using your smartphone, your point and shoot camera, or that fancy DSLR camera. I've got you covered. You're in the right place, and we are going to get your improved photography during this summer. So who am I? My name is Ingrid Owens, and a lot of you know me because I know a lot of familiar faces in the chat room here tonight. My name is Ingrid. As I said, I've been teaching photography for more than 15 years, and that's me over there in the corner. So I'm not that old, but I have been teaching photography for a long time, and I consider myself been raised in the photographic industry. My dad had a photography shop growing up. He still has one there. He was supposed to be on here live, but he is in Ireland, and that is where my accent is from. I've been living here in Atlanta now for 10 years, but I've been involved in the photo industry since I was 14 years old. My dad had a photography shop and really involved me in every aspect of the business. And part of that was teaching the customers how to use their camera, figuring out all the cameras so I could tell people all about them and advise them as to be the best ones. And so when I moved here to Atlanta and had my kids, you know, it just became a natural progression for me to teach in-person classes here in Atlanta. And of course, I teach students all over the world now as well with my own classes. I see one of my online students or one of my in-person students come in there. Hello, Elena. She took a wee minute to come in. You're very welcome. I'm just doing my introduction, so you have not missed much. Some of you are also familiar with the Camera Shy Take 52 challenge, and we are now a strong community of almost 1,800 beginner photographers. And although we do not have 1,800 submissions every week, we sure do have a lot of people contributing regularly and a lot of people getting inspiration from the Take 52 challenge. So if you haven't heard of that, or you're not part of that community, you can do a Facebook search for Take 52, and I will send out the link as well after this webinar, because we would love to have you join us. It's a really inspiring place to hang out and full of really awesome people. And of course, I teach, I do photography tips and techniques and little blog posts and all sorts of little webinars and things on IngridKellyOwens.com. So you will be able to check out all of that after the webinar. But for now, I want you to give me your full attention for the next hour. I promise we won't go much longer than an hour tonight. But you deserve to spend some time in learning about your camera, learning about composition, really improving your craft. So switch off all those distractions, turn off the phone, you know, give yourself a little bit of time to learn. Get a cup of tea, grab a glass of wine, whatever it is, and settle in for the next 50 minutes or so. So tonight we are going to concentrate on capturing those summer memories as they were like a pro. We are going to learn how to create emotions and evoke feelings in your photos. You're going to learn how to accurately record your trips and events without being boring, because we've all sat through the slideshows of, you know, the family vacation out west, where we're just looking at like scenery after scenery after scenery. And, you know, those things don't really tell us anything about what happened, where we were, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this evening. And ultimately, you're going to learn how to fill your memory card full of those meaningful images, and you're not going to get the same snapshots that you got last year. So like I said, listen, follow along with the slides. If you like, you can take notes, but it is really good just to give your full attention. Sometimes people like to take notes. It helps you kind of absorb that information into your brain just by the action of writing it down. And you can ask me questions in the chat box. So we do have a chat box underneath the video. If you haven't seen it, just scroll down. You can log in there with Twitter or Facebook. And I will try and address the questions when I can. It's kind of hard for me to see two screens, but I'm pretty good at multitasking. I'm a mom, y'all can relate. So I'm used to doing two things at once, but if I can't answer them right away, we will certainly answer them at the end of the session. There is a little bit of a delay between when I speak and when I speak and when I see the screen, so just bear with me on that. Okay, I do have a question here. Somebody's asking the link for non-YouTube watching. So it is, let me just type it in here real quick. It's Ingrid, oops, I can't even spell my own name. Ingrid Kelly Owens.com / if they haven't signed up, they can go, or you can go straight to the classroom page, and that should get you in there and allow you to see the chat and all the rest of it there. All right, so don't be afraid to ask questions, and I do want to encourage you to stay right to the very end, because I do have something special for those people who have tuned in live. So this is a quote, and I'm not sure who quoted it, who said it, but I want you to think about it for a minute. A great photo resonates with the viewer on an emotional level, regardless of whether they know that person, place, or thing being photographed or not. So that is your main goal as a photographer. To get somebody to look who doesn't know you, who doesn't know your kid, who doesn't know, that particular waterfall or whatever it is that you're photographing, to connect on an emotional level with the photo. And that, it's not easy, because we are, we're used to taking photos of things that we truly love, especially if you're a photographer taking photos of your kids all the time. Like, every single thing they are is cute. We'll see them as cute no matter how the picture looks like, what the picture looks like. But your job is to be able to recreate that emotion that you feel in somebody else's mind who does not even know your kids or anything, right? So, like I said earlier, this was me when I was 16 working in my dad's shop. Wasn't I cute? My dad got this photograph of me. He probably thinks he has that emotional connection, right? So my dad took this photo of me. I think I was about 16, maybe a little older. And as I said, I was brought up in the photographic industry, but I really love technology. And that's why I'm not afraid to do this online training stuff and, embrace it. And you can see me there with my laptop and all the photography stuff all around me, but definitely got the laptop out and going, right? So I love technology. And so, when I was taking pictures, I really, I embraced the aperture, the shutter speed, shooting in manual. I knew I could tell you, and I still can, because that's what I do, can tell you everything about how a camera works. And I am obsessed, and was obsessed, with the inside workings of cameras. But I never really considered myself artistic. And I guess I always was compared with my sister, who, went and studied art and design, is a very talented artist. And I was always the techie one. And so I could take a very technically correct photograph, but I was missing something. They always fell flat. They were never truly what I wanted them to be like. And it took me a very long time to try and figure that out. But I did. So what changed? Well, I figured out that while the technology is super important, and you really do have to know how your camera works, it's emotion that really counts in your images. Without being able to have that or create that emotive response in your viewer, your photos are really just, postcards. They don't show anything other than, this is where I was, this is what we were doing, and it was that sort of like kind of time stamped thing almost. But emotion is a feeling. Obviously, it's going to be different for every photograph. And so our job as a photographer is to try and figure out, how do you get it into your photos? But when I did that, that's when my photography really, really changed. So if we look for a minute on how we take photos, we have the documentary side of photographs, recording events, sharing them with family and friends, to say, like, my child graduated, or here is the 5th birthday party, or whatever. And sometimes we just photograph to remember things, since, of course, we've got our cell phones now all the time with us. We can photograph everything, and I will do it in a store. I'll just take a picture of something that I want to buy and the price of it, so that I'll remember that this is the price of this camera at Costco or whatever. So there is that side of photography. And then there's the side of photography that is the artistic side. And this is the side that I always kind of felt like I'm just kind of fluffing it a little bit. But the art side of photography really does bring joy. So it brings joy, and anybody that's here who is in photography knows this. I don't even have to tell you. You have a joy in photography, being a photographer, and I consider us all photographers. If you have pressed your finger on a shutter button, you're a photographer, okay? You might not be a professional photographer, but when I talk about a photographer, I'm talking about everybody here. So it brings you joy and in your own relaxation and pleasure. And it also brings you joy to share that with other people, to create something beautiful. And then the people that are looking at that have joy in that too. And so with those two things, that documentary and art, those two parts of photography overlap, that's the place where we will find our brilliant, meaningful, beautiful images. Okay, so I want you to think about that as you progress through your photography practice, and especially as we talk about and think about our capturing our summer memories. How are we going to make our photos brilliant, meaningful, and beautiful? And that has to be that combination of documentary and art all together. You can't really do it both together or both separately. So how we're going to do that is by making it all about the story. Okay, as human beings, we all have this universal need for connection, and you know, everybody wants to connect nowadays, and we're all connected on social media, and you know, maybe we're not really connected at all, but I do believe that I feel more connected to my friends, people that I know for a long time and people that I haven't seen for a long time, because I see their photos updated on Facebook, because I can follow their Instagram feed. So those photos are telling me a story about their lives and what's happening. We may not have as much connection as if we were writing letters or talking to them on the phone every day, but that story is enough to connect us. And if you can be a good storyteller in your images, you will get that sense of connection too. So I want you to think about that. And you know, for a mom today, for me, and this is not only just for moms, but today is the first day of summer, or it's the last day of school here in Cobb in Georgia. So, you know, my summer story begins tomorrow. I had to get this web class done and out of the way, and then tomorrow morning, all bets are off. We sleep till 10. We don't have anything going on. We have no schedule. And that's going to be part of my story. So I'm going to really make an effort to try and capture a lot more of those everyday things, but maybe not quite too early in the morning, not tomorrow at least. So I've broken this down in how we can capture better photos of people and how we can, you know, do our landscape pictures and travel pictures. So we've got it into two separate things. So let's look for a minute about how we're going to do this for our people, our photo shots. With photos of people and trying to capture their story, it's all about being able to place them in a situation with props, things that are added in that help tell the story, and leaving out all the nonsense in the background or around the picture that doesn't add to that story. So this picture is super cute. It's obviously, this guy's at the beach. He's been fishing. He's caught something. We can see a lot of the age of this little guy here. We've got his little gappy teeth, that gappy grin that says so much about this person. I don't know this child. I picked this photo up off Flickr. A lot of my photos you'll see tonight I'll share are of my children, but this one I thought really just helps to tell this story. And you want to be able to connect in those photos with people through people's eyes. So if we just pop back at this photograph again, we can see that the eyes are right there on this upper third, because if you've done a little photography practice already, you'll know about the rule of thirds. And this is a very good example of the rule of thirds. The eye line is right across this top horizon level, and we also have an object of interest down here on this second half, or this last third as well. So it works really well, right? So we've got nice sharp eyes, and we've got something interesting going over here. So in a portrait or a people shot, your main photo or your main focus should be on those eyes. And that is where you want the sharpest part of your photo to be. So you can see here, we've got three girls all lined up, but you know, they're pretty much nice sharp focus on their eyes as much as possible. So we've managed to blur out our background here a little bit as well. Now, if you want some technical tips on technical help on how to achieve that pin sharp focus on your eyes, I want you to encourage you to use what we call that focus lock and recompose method. So if you're in auto or you've just been using your camera in auto, you can take control over the focus points by going to your focus point selection button. On the Canon cameras, it's on the top right hand side. In Nikon, you want to just go to that the quick menu on the back of the camera, and I think it's like autofocus point selection will give you your option, and you just want to select a single point of focus. And so you can either do that, like I said, by locking the focus on the eyes and recomposing, or you can toggle to make sure that single point is over your subject's eyes. Now, if you're in auto, you probably can't do this, so I suggest that you, at least if you're not even comfortable with, you know, some of the semi-manual modes, move into program auto and to play around with it in there. So you're going to change your focus point to the eye over the eyes. Now, if they're 2 or 3 people together, you want to get those heads nice and close, the way that it was in those last shots. And you want to get that sharp focus by pressing your finger on the shutter button halfway down to lock the focus in on their eyes. Maintain your finger on the button halfway down, and that will lock your focus, and then you can recompose to have the shot looking whatever way you want. Now, if you're not familiar with this focus lock and recompose method, you know, if you just Google focus lock, I think I probably have some articles about it on the blog. It's certainly something that my students have been familiar with. But, you know, it's well worth, check out your manual and have a peep and try and figure out how you can do that, because that is one thing that can really change your pictures. We also can help to improve our portrait photos along with that nice sharp focus on the eyes. If you use a telephoto zoom, it's really going to help to blur out that background a lot. So baby here, this is baby Campbell, and she's a big girl Campbell now, but I took this down in Piedmont Park. We have lovely light, beautiful background, nice out of focus, nice blurriness, and of course there's no doubt what we are looking at here is these big baby blue eyes, and she's quite blurred out for the rest of the shot. Now, I've used a telephoto zoom lens for this so that it helps to avoid any distractions. So I was probably a good ways away from her. Her mommy was right down here in the corner holding her up, making sure she didn't tip down, but we just got that right connection. And you can see she's staring straight into the camera. There's connection between me and her. And so then anybody that looks at this picture also gets a sense of that connection as well. Obviously, she's in summer. We've got summer light. It's a really pretty portrait. So using that telephoto lens, and even if you don't have an extremely big zoom lens, you can use a telephoto end of your zoom and just kind of back up a little bit, even though you might be able to fit it all in at your wide angle. Zoom in, back up, and that will help to really blur out that background. So the other thing that I want you to think about when you're trying to create that story is to try and use natural light where you can. So this photo, again, another one taken from Flickr, and we have a nice connection between the boy and the dad, or the boy and the guy. It looks like a dad, it could be an uncle, right? But there's definitely a nice connection going on between those two. We're using natural light. The photographer has used natural light. There is no flash, because we can get a sense of depth to the picture. We know where the photo is taken. It's obviously taken at home or somewhere that's a relaxed setting, and so we have a relaxed shot. So we don't have to worry about using flash if you have sufficient natural light coming in on the shot. Using flash, which happens in auto all the time if you're in low light or inside, will drown out the background, cause darkness and black in the background, and really lose that sense of you know, kind of atmosphere, I suppose. And so you don't want to have that happen. So use natural light wherever possible. And if you are not sure of how to get your camera to work in natural light without the flash going off, again, you need to be out of auto. So at least in the program auto mode. And you'll probably need to adjust your ISO settings as well to increase it so that you have more sensitivity to the light that's coming in, and you don't have to have as slow of a shutter speed. So check out again where your ISO setting is on your camera, and this is something that you can increase when you're shooting in low light, like I said, to make the camera more sensitive. You also want to make sure that that light is hitting your subject right in the eyes if you can help it. So even this photo was taken of Noah outside in shade. He's in shade, but the light is just at a right angle here. So you can see those little catch lights in his eyes, which makes it really a compelling image, and, you know, just a little bit more interesting than if it was all just kind of flat and we didn't have those cute little catch lights. So you want to make sure that your subject is looking really towards the light, and whether you're inside or outside. And if you're outside, I'll show you that in the next slide. If you're inside, you're almost going to have to be in the same light as your subject. So if your subject's looking out the window, you're probably going to be in the window taking pictures coming from with your back to the window. So always be wary of where that light is and where it's fallen, and you are going to get the best shots. Okay. Just having a wee quick check on the chat. Y'all are still there. I see Gail has joined us. Hello, Gail, one of my Take 52 Plus people. And let me make sure everybody is good. Good. All right, let's move on. When you are outside and you are trying to get the lighting right in summertime, it can be challenging. Now, here in Georgia, we have very harsh sunlight pretty much for most of the day. It's really challenging to take good photos in that bright sunlight. There's not an awful lot that you can do, but you can find what we call open shade outside. Now, open shade just means that it's a shaded area where the sun is not direct on your area. So for me, one of the best places I have open shade is my porch. A lot of, you know, houses here in the south have a nice porch, and so that is always going to give me open shade. But it could be an awning or a tree, or even sometimes like the most crazy things like a shadow of a car or something like that. You want to look all the time for that open shade. Now, if you are using a tree as your open shade, be careful that you're not getting that dappled look and you're getting spotted light. Okay, because if you take, you know, a photo under that's where that light is kind of half on and half off your subject, you're going to have really strong highlights that like cause what's known as hot spots, and is really hard to pull those back in editing, and it's not a good look. You want nice even light, and if you can find it, you want to go to the edge of that light. Now, this photo of Molly I took just the other day. We were playing outside, and I wanted to show you, and actually this is taken from a lesson that we are going to be learning in our Take 52 Plus group all about lighting this month. But this same photo, I just wanted to show you how by changing my angle as the photographer, it can completely transform the image. Okay, so this first photo here, Molly is, yes, standing in the open shade, but there is still a little bit of sun hitting her right here, and then she's shaded in other parts of her face, right? So it's not good. But what I did was, and you can see, you can kind of match up, there's the back of the deck, or sorry, the railings of the deck there and there. So what I did was I moved around Molly. So first of all, I had her stand in the shade at the edge of the light so that she's looking where the light is hitting her, right, as much as possible. And then I just rotated her around to find that sweet spot of where the light was going to hit her nice and evenly without these kind of very spotty shadows. And, you know, it involves a little bit of forward and back and moving around, and you know, but with experience, that will come very easily to you. So what I want you to do is, if you are forced into situations like this, and even if you're not, it's very good practice to get out and play. And if you do this, I would love to see your images. So, tag me on Facebook or tag them on Instagram, and give me a shout out to see if it worked or not. But what you're going to do is have your subject stand at the edge of that shadow and light, and having them look towards the sun or looks towards the light, and then rotate around them till you find that sweet spot. So, I took about 6 photos here. These are the two kind of extremes of the one that really worked and one that didn't, until you get the place where the light works the best. So, all too many times, we can kind of say, well, it's just not good to take photos right here, but you can find it. There's always some shade somewhere, or else you've no business been out at 12 o'clock in the middle of Georgia sunlight. All right. Let's keep going. So the next one here we're talking about is using the fill flash outside to lift up any of these dark shadows. So if you are looking at the dark shadows, if you're getting dark shadows, like, so this shot here was shot on the boat, there were no places to shade on the boat, right? That's why we've got to wear our hats and whatever. So there's lots of deep dark shadows here on Sam's face, and on Sophie's little face right here as baby. So what you can do is remember to turn on your flash, and when you're outside, that will lift up any dark shadows that you're seeing. So it isn't ideal. You do get a lot of highlights, but in certain situations it's better than nothing, right? So you're trying to make the best of a bad lot. So lighting can be tricky for sure in the summer, but there's definitely enough around, bright sunshine, dark, a little bit of shade to get those good shots, and at least we're outside, right? You can still, of course, remember to take your photos inside and use in the natural light and up at your ISO. Now, if you are also, you'll hear me talk a little bit later about the golden hours, specifically for landscapes and stuff. Those are great. They are good for people shots as well, but they are a little bit technically more challenging, because you really have to shoot in manual or semi-manual mode to get those right. But again, you can certainly play with that with people in the shot as well. So you also, in getting away from lighting now, you want to think about what else in your image, what else adds or distracts from your image. Like this picture of Molly really wouldn't say too much unless she had that ice cream cone in her hand. It's not a great, perfectly technical shot, but I have to say it's one of my favorites of Molly, because it's just her, my baldy baby, who is now, you've seen her in the last picture. She's got golden curls, but she was bald for a very long time. And this shot, the light is hitting her right. She's got the ice cream all over her face completely. That's as good as it's going to get on that day. And it definitely tells the story. You want to also think about what part of the image is in focus and out of focus when you're including other things. So remember, the focus is always, for people, you really always want it to be on those eyes. But if you have other things in the image, you can have them out of focus, and it will add another dimension to that picture. There are situations as well when you might want to have, going back to that, you might want to have, like say, this in focus and your subject out of focus. And I'll show you some examples of that. In fact, one of the photos that I had taken, I think at one point, and I should have put it on this, was with the girls holding a soccer ball, and that's focus, but the subject is out of focus in the background. So lots of different ways to mix up your focus, but generally, and this is an art, remember, there's no hard and fast rules, but you generally want that focus to be on the eyes. But again, this shot of this girl, this really came off of Flickr as well. A beautiful shot of this girl coming out of the surf. It would not be the same if there was a tight crop there. We really need to see that she's got the leash on her hand, that there's a big wave behind her, the blue ocean, the blue sky, that green ocean, all works really well to kind of tell part of her story and why she's hanging out there for the day. This one is hard if you've got kids that are doing that cheesy grin, but remember, if you can, with your people, not necessarily to pose, right? Sometimes we are obsessed as photographers at trying to get the direction of our people to look at us, to smile, to cheese, da da da. But so many photos can be really awesome if you don't pose them and take them off the cuff. Either, you know, something like this where they're looking away in a different direction, or even, you know, if people are, you know, just being natural and you're kind of doing the paparazzi thing where you're looking at them a little bit further back. I love this one as well. And mind you, I have plenty of of my girls. This like it looks like to me she's pitching a fit. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's just enjoying the sprinklers. But again, a really nice shot, taken at a distance, but enough is going on in the background to let us know where the scene was, tells a lot of the story, and a really, really cute photo. And that telephoto lens, when you are shooting it, whoops, I keep bumping back, I'm sorry. When you are using that telephoto lens and you are a little bit further back, and you're getting more of the subject in as opposed to the close-up one of the baby that we looked at earlier, you know, it allows you to kind of have that distance and let your subjects do their own thing. Now, a lot of these photos are of kids, and you know, my children are just getting to the age where we can kind of give them a bit longer of a leash. They can go and explore, but I'm right there. But having that camera and doing that unposed thing lets them do their own thing, get some nice, natural, cute shots. Again, that's telling more of the story. Don't forget that everything's an occasion. Everything, especially in summer, should be an occasion. And I want to encourage you, it's kind of one of my little pet things, is to capture that everyday stuff. Thinking about all the things that we talked about earlier, like capturing using your daylight, your natural light, trying to up your ISO, really, excuse me, using all of that good stuff to capture those everyday things, because ultimately they're telling a story that when you look back on it in years to come will really, you know, paint a picture of what life was like. This picture of Molly and Sam on, it's not Molly, actually, it's Sophie when she was younger, on the ride-on lawnmower. You know, everything was just right here at the time with the lighting. Again, it's not a technically perfect shot. Like, I do have a hot spot here, and she's got her hand up to her face, whatever. But I just think it really adds that sense of, like, you know, summertime, this is what we do, and we're cutting the grass, and it's just kind of hazy days, and I really enjoy that picture. And then we have Koa, who I think y'all met in my email for this webinar. And of course, he's my main focus for a change right here. The focus nice and sharp on Koa, and Molly is right there in the background, but she's out of focus. So we, if I had just taken this in auto and the camera was set to auto focus settings, it would have focused on her. It would have tried to focus on her and him together, smushed them together, got rid of any kind of nice shallow depth of field, and totally, you know, kind of ruined that atmosphere of the picture. You really do have to take your camera everywhere with you. And I know that this is a challenge if you've got a lot of kids, or if you've got a bigger camera and you don't want to be carrying it at all times. But it's only by taking it around with you, as you know, if you're doing the Take 52 challenge, it's only by taking it with you that you'll capture these shots that just seem to come out of nowhere, that aren't posed. Again, another favorite photo of Sophie just doing normal stuff like during the summer, but it screams summer to me. Like, she's doing like corn and all covered in butter, and you know, I wouldn't have had that if the camera hadn't been sat there on the sideboard. Of course, you have your phone now with you all the time, so you have no excuse. I also want to encourage you to experiment a little with black and white. Now, if you have never taken black and white on your picture, on your camera. You can, of course, edit, and that's the advised way to do it, to edit in Lightroom or Canva or PicMonkey or some of these programs to convert your image to black and white. But even if you don't do it that way and you don't want to mess with editing, you can also change to black and white on your camera. And on the Canon cameras, it is a button usually given all by itself called Picture Style. And you might not have noticed it because it's under Picture Style and then monochrome as opposed to black and white. And sometimes it can just be a nice creative challenge to only shoot in black and white, because our lives are so busy and there's so much stuff happening and we've got so many things going on in photos. By using black and white, you're really cutting out a lot of the noise and focusing on what's really important. And I love this photo of the shadows, and it's in black and white, but it's exempt. The shadows really kind of pull that home. It's a real summertime image, and very much fun. Now, we don't normally think that black and white would be summertime, right? But like, here's another one on the beach, and it just really, really works well. So when you use black and white, you're getting rid of, like I say, all the noise, all the extra stuff that's going on. You're really focused on your subject and lighting, and that's it. And so in very contrasty scenes or people shots where there's a lot of, there's, just two main kind of textures or colors going on, you can really get some dramatic black and white monochrome images. Now, has anybody got any questions on any of that? We talked a lot about people shots. There's quite a bit of technical stuff in there. If you've not used your camera focus settings and changing your focus, telephoto zoom lenses, changing your lenses, you've got to change your picture style and playing around with your ISO. So let me take a setting here, a second to check the chat box before we move on to places. I see Gail is in here. I think, Gail, maybe you have logged on a little late. It's 8:30 where you're at. No, maybe it's just because you're in Central Time. Got a little bit of time difference. All right, so Gail, you can always watch the replay. We'll get you caught up in no time at all. So let's move on to talking about places. And of course, summertime is that time when we are out and about and going visiting and traveling all over the country, hopefully, and seeing lots of fun things. And, one of the toughest questions I get asked all the time is how to try and capture these photos the way that we saw them. And it's hard with landscapes because you're trying to capture the feeling that you had when you were there in a photograph, right? And Ansel Adams called this the landscape's personal statement, and each landscape has a personal statement, and you're as the photographer, it's your responsibility to capture that personal statement. Excuse me, not an easy thing to do, right? So some of the ways that you can make your photos more emotive as landscapes are, and one of the biggest things is to shoot during what we call the golden hours. Now, the golden hours are either the half an hour in the morning, right around sunrise, so like a little bit before the sun comes up and about a half an hour after the sun rises, and as the sun is dipping down in the sky and setting. So right before sunset, about a half an hour before sunset, and about 20 minutes to the other side of that. Those time frames are considered the golden hours, and what makes them golden is the quality of the light that we get at those times. The light is really soft and dispersed evenly. We have a nice golden hue, as long as we've had sun in the sky, mind you. But even if there's there's clouds, that's when we get those nice pinks and all those different colors and the oranges. And you can try and capture that in your photos, either with people in them, but even just as the landscapes on their own. And having those beautiful colors will add another dimension to your shot. So remember, if you can, landscape shots are always going to be so much more dramatic during those golden hours. I squished this one in here about giving the camera for a little one during the day. It doesn't really fit with places, but it could do. Like, even if you're talking about taking photos at home, these photos were taken off of my little Sophie's little junky Fisher-Price camera, and I think it's so interesting to see things from her point of view, right? And this is a really good picture of baby Molly that I never got to see that point of view in the car seat. It's only her sister that ever got to see that. But remember, as you're taking photos of places, to remember the type of feeling that you're trying to project. So is it a relaxed feeling? So maybe you're going to include the feet, like here, right? Is it something that's more dramatic or moody? Maybe you might use black and white or something. Capturing those details are really important. So even though we're thinking of a place, it doesn't have to just be, oh, you know, we're here at the beach, let's take a photo of the sand and the sea and the sun. You know, how about taking a photo of your flip-flops? Like, to me, that tells the story, right, of where you were at and who was there. And, you know, maybe these people over here are somebody to do with us, and maybe they're not. But it's telling part of the story. Those details can really add effect to your story, not having people in them, of course, with those places. Like, this is a beautiful shot, obviously a beach umbrella, that beautiful orange popping against the blue sky. You know, an abstract shot, but definitely one that could be included in that album of the vacation. You know, we hadn't a cloud in the sky. You know, that orange umbrella may have become part of your daily routine for a week. So something really cool about that. And of course, getting nice and close up on those really good details. Like, if you're in Italy, you're getting the gelato, you're going to want to have a shot of that. I love the way they've focused super sharp here on the photo or on the ice cream. It just makes you want to go in and have a bite, right? Or maybe you're more partial to a pint of Guinness and having a wee drink instead. But again, something very beautiful and artistic about just the smoothness of the black and the creamy top. And, you know, one of the beautiful things about photography on vacation is that you have a little bit more time to think about things. So you can slow yourself down and take some pictures that are maybe a little bit more considered, and I'm doing my air quotes here, but artsy. So you're getting that connection, you're getting the overlap, as we talked about in the beginning, of the art, and then you're playing with those technical things to give you those changes. Like here, we've used a very shallow depth of field to throw the background out of focus to get this nice pound of black stuff. So the other thing, of course, that really helped to make your landscape photos more appealing is using some basic composition rules. Now, if the one thing about composition, it's something that you can definitely be taught, and there are definite rules. But a lot of times what I find is some of my very good photography students have this innately, right? They know, and you know who you are. If you just take a good picture, but you're not really sure why it's good, you just know it looks good this way and it doesn't look good that way, you've probably got this built in. But it doesn't do any harm to review the rules every now and again, and to be thinking about how you're taking your photos compositionally and how you can change that up. So one of the very easy ways to do that is by changing your perspective. Tall buildings, obviously on a trip, or not obviously, but could well be, you know, we could try and fit the whole building in on your shot, but probably not going to do that. So by lying down on the ground, this photographer has managed to get a really impressive shot of these tall buildings that probably he wouldn't have been able to get if he was just standing up straight. Another little pretty house, you know, again, this could be a summer home. This could be your own home. You might be trying to capture the garden and what it looks like this summer. But rather than just taking a photo of at eye level of the house and the garden, you know, include it, getting low down to include those flowers, a strong color, burst of color in that foreground, and then the house going off. Of course, we've got the leading lines going all the way up to the door. So that makes all these things work about this image, rather than just, you know, thinking, oh, I want to get the flowers and I want to get the house. You know, think a little bit more, go that extra step. How can I change this picture to make it look more aesthetically pleasing and to get that sense of emotion into the picture? Framing is super important when it comes to landscape photography, because what you leave in and what you leave out of the frame can really dramatically tell the story and make a difference to the story that your viewer is seeing. And this image is taken at the marsh, but it's very obviously taken in like South Georgia, you know, that south part of the United States, because of this beautiful hanging moss. And anybody that knows anything about you know, the South knows that we have this in these trees growing around this area, and it just helps to add the frame but tell part of the story of where the picture was taken as well. Again, just using a little frame rather than just taking the photo of the boat and the people in the water. You know, we have this kind of like peekaboo look through the trees and a little bit of other stuff going on in the foreground, so we can tell these guys here are having a nice and relaxing time. A little envious. Of course, we have interest in the foreground here with the sand castle, a typical beach shot, which you might not necessarily think, you know, like, oh, we want to take a photo of the castle the kids built, it's so pretty. But, you know, by just having the castle on its own, it might not be very interesting. So think about other things that could be included in the frame. The photographer has included the bucket. We have, of course, the people here in the back of the shot. So we have that frame of reference. And again, the perspective is low down, so that the photographer is at a position where he's taken the shot at a lower down perspective to include that nice sharp sand castle in the front. But ultimately, we can change a lot of these of the technical settings to change the feeling of the image. Now, I don't have time tonight, of course, to go into a lot of the technical changes, but things like using a speeded up shutter speed, a fast shutter speed, which has been used here to get that water spray, you know, it really helps to add that feeling of excitement. And you know, create that emotion, that and more of an energetic photo, rather than just using a plain, you know, a middle of the road shutter speed. Again, here using a fast shutter speed, everybody pretty much jumping into the pool at the same time, although we've got a little here at the end, not quite catching up, and one guy very eager to get in the water here at the beginning. But again, using a fast shutter speed. So if you were shooting this probably at around 1/500th, 1/1000th of a second in manual mode or shutter priority mode, you'd be able to achieve this sort of stuff. And then the opposite is true. So slowing down that shutter speed can be really interesting as well. And again, you know, on vacation, you have time to play with these sorts of things. So a brilliant shot taken, obviously it is in London, telephone box, and we've got the red double-decker bus going past there as well. So no doubt that this is where it was. But I think a scene like this tells so much more about your place, your visit to London, rather than just you know, a straightforward photo of the telephone and the bus or whatever with a flash on, or maybe no flash on and it didn't come out. So playing around with some of these technical things in your camera are going to make these changes. Now, one last thing here, I think it's one last thing. A technical change that you can do pretty easily, even in the program auto mode, is changing your exposure compensation to reduce the exposure on your pictures to make dark silhouetted pictures in the evening time. So if you're not familiar with exposure compensation, what it is doing is either adding more light in or restricting the amount of light that's coming into your picture. And you can use it in the program auto mode, in shutter priority or aperture priority mode. But basically what you're doing is that you're moving away from what the camera thinks is the normal exposure. And so to make a silhouetted shot, you're going to reduce the exposure compensation down and let less light in. So it's going to give this silhouetted effect if you're shooting against the backlight. And then you do the opposite when you're shooting in bright sand, because actually what happens for in bright situations like sand or snow, if you're shooting a lot of like, you know, maybe not in summer, but in the snow shots, when you've got a lot of brightness, the camera thinks that the exposure should be darker than it actually is. Maybe if you're shooting on very bright concrete, you'll have this problem. So you need to actually increase your exposure compensation to counteract that so that you get a correct exposure. Now, of course, if you're shooting in manual, this does not apply, but we are catering to beginners and intermediates here tonight. So exposure compensation is definitely a button worth checking out. Now, I cannot believe I have gotten through all of those slides already. I wanted to spend some time, see if anybody has any questions, and they can be related to what we're talking about here, or can be something else. If you have a question, you can go ahead and put it into the box, into the chat box, and I will be able to help you out. But I just want you to remember that it's only by practice that you are going to get better as a photographer. And one of the things that we've learned in our Take 52 group is by using your camera on a regular basis, if not a daily basis, you will not only just be ready for the next shot, you start to get familiar with your buttons and the settings, and you get comfortable with your camera. So I want you to remember to take your camera with you. And don't spend another summer with just mediocre photos. I don't want you to go away and think, oh my gosh, like I have no idea where to start here. You can start by not getting confused by your camera, taking it with you, committing to learning it, and you're not going to lose any more of those forgotten memories. You're going to get memories, photos that are of the memories as they should be remembered, not just places and people with no story behind them all. So I'm not sure why you showed up here tonight. I am very glad that you did, but I know that maybe you might be getting fed up with your camera and getting frustrated that your photos are just not what they should be. Maybe you have an awesome camera, but your photos are less than stellar. And I know that you know the joy that already comes from photography for you and for your generations to come. It is such a part of your heritage to be able to record and document these pictures. But it is not enough, as I said, just to have the technical side. You have to have the emotive pictures too. And my photography changed when I started to put that emotion into my pictures, and yours can do that too. Your artistic vision plus your technical confidence in your camera will give you beautiful photos this summer, for now and for the future. So I can help you do this. You can learn as you go, and you can take all summer to learn, or you can do this the fastest way, and I can help you in my course called Demystify Your DSLR. Now, I know that many of my students are in this group already, and they are will attest to the fact that, you know, the classes that I teach and the way that I teach is a very easy and actionable way to do it. We can certainly piece together all of the photography stuff online, and there is countless YouTube videos. I have a ton of information already on my blog. But if you want a systematic approach to going through and learning and how to get comfortable in your camera, plus get that creative side of things as well, and know when you need to use what button and why you should switch it to this way rather than that way, then I want you to encourage you to check out my course, which is now open for enrollment, and we are closing the doors next week. We have one more week for opening it, but I'm doing it slightly different this time. It is a self-directed Demystify Your DSLR class. We have 4 modules. It's a video course, but I have broken down the videos into easy to understand bite-sized chunks. So you can register, jump on, get involved right away and start learning, and you could binge watch me. You could get this all down in a weekend if you want, or you can take your time and complete at your own pace. You can review it for as often as you like. You have lifetime membership to this class. But what's different this time is that we are going to do 4 weekly live office hours calls, and hopefully we're going to use this in the doing a Facebook live broadcast in our private Facebook group that is specifically for people who are completing this course right now. So not only will you have access to all the information, you will have answers, you will have the ability to get your answers all personally, your questions all personally answered by me on 4 separate occasions over the next couple of months. Okay, and we might even throw in extra ones, you wouldn't know. And you also, I will answer all questions in the Facebook group as they come up as time goes on, right? You'll have worksheets and notes to download and review. And I know many of my students like to keep those on their phone and kind of go through them when they're out in the field. And the jam-packed full of assignments and action points, which really, really make a difference to when you are doing your work. Because as I said, we can talk tonight, we probably all feel great now. You are an awesome photographer. You are going to take great photos. But when it comes down to it, if you don't put into practice these technical things that we're talking about, you can't even get past that to put the creative side on things. So this is what the course looks like on the inside. We have, as I said, 4 modules, and each module is broken down to about 4 or 5 lessons. Each lesson is about 20-25 minutes long. Some are less, some are more, and they're all delivered via video, and a bit like we are seeing here on the webinar. And then we have downloadable slides, and you have a place to ask their questions and get all of that taken care of. Now, I do want to go through what we have here, but like I said, I do have something special for people who have stayed on here tonight. So please stay and just have a listen to what's involved. And if you have any questions, like I said, go ahead and ask them in the chat box. Elena has a question here, and she wants to know if she can review this. Yes, Elena, there will be a video replay of this webinar, and it will be available, but not for a long time. So get in and get access to it over the weekend. I'll send you out all the information though. So in Demystify Your DSLR, the first module is focusing on meeting your camera. I believe we need to be friends with your camera. You need to be able to take good pictures. You got to have that camera as an extension of your hand and your brain. You don't even want to be thinking about what you're doing. So I'm going to help you understand what all of those buttons and dials are for. That way you can confidently forget about them, and then you can focus on creating this emotion that we've talked about tonight. You'll learn which ones are super important, because there are some buttons on there that if you don't know what they do, there's probably a reason why they're on there, right? So you need to know what they are, and you need to know why you need to use them, and you need to know which ones you can forget, because that's half of the battle too. We've only got so much brain space, right? We can only take in so much. In module 2, we are going to be focusing on light. It's called Let There Be Light, and we will look at how to use light as a photographer, how to look at the light as a photographer. And it's one of the most important things about your photography practice is light, because, you know, without light, there's no pictures, right? So you're going to learn how to look at light like a photographer and how to use it to your advantage. And you'll also learn how to shoot in those tricky lighting situations, because of course there's always going to be less than perfect conditions. We look at low light, bright light, inside and out. And some simple techniques also to improve these images right away. So this is not an in-depth, oh my gosh, I have to learn this for 12 weeks. I'm going to come out of here with a degree kind of course. I am going to tell you what you can do to take better photos right away. And anybody who knows me and my teaching knows that all of my training is very, very actionable, because I know we're not here to be professionals. We're here to get the goods. We want better pictures. Module 3, we're going to look at the creative process. And so we are going to really have a look at how you're going to get those pictures that you see in your head out of your camera. So putting together some of the things that we looked at tonight, and learn how to do things like to freeze action shots, to create those blurry backgrounds, how to shoot close up. We're going to look at this creative process, and also during our live office hours this week, we'll be able to go in depth into more how you can be more creative with your pictures and how you can put this all together, because you know it's all very well knowing this button does that and that button does this, but what happens when you're out in the middle of the baseball game and you want to take that picture of the dirt flying and you know your kids coming at you and the sun's out shining? Like, I'm not going to be there, probably not, we're not into baseball. So you know, you need to know how to do this, and this is what we're going to learn in module 3. And finally, module 4 is we are going to talk about the editing process. So we'll talk about best practices for uploading and editing and prepping for print and email, and learning those simple editing techniques that are going to make your pictures perfect. Now, editing is something that is left out of a lot of photography courses, but it is super, super important that if you want to take really good, perfectly exposed, nice photos that are going to stand out on Facebook and are really going to represent your emotions, that editing is part of that. And so in module 4, we certainly don't get deep into it, but I'm going to give you the basic principles for editing so that you can take your pictures to the next level. So your investment for this class tonight and for the next couple of days is going to be a lifetime of really awesome photography memories. Anybody that knows me and works with me one-on-one will pay $150 for a one-to-one session. But this course in total, the 4 modules, the Facebook group, the live classes with me once a week for 4 weeks, will only cost you $149. And if you buy tonight on this webinar, or if you're watching the replay and you buy, you all also get my super duper bonus offer. And so my super duper bonus offer is, what is it, Ingrid? Is a 1 hour one-on-wall Skype, FaceTime, Google Hangout, let's have a cup of coffee, whatever you want to do, call with me. Now, this is something that I've never done before, and my sister earlier told me, you're crazy doing that, but it's how I love to teach. I love teaching one-to-one. I love the interaction that I get one-to-one, and I think that one call with me, were an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it takes, but you'll get 1 hour of my time, will help you in so many different ways. If you're an absolute beginner, we can use that time to review your work. We can go over part of the course that you're not familiar with. I can give you direction. You can use your call at the end of your lesson on how you want to go up next. Maybe you're done with the class. Maybe you want just to use this class as a review and you're ready to shoot to the next level. We'll use that one-to-one call to get shooting in manual. Okay, so this call is worth $75 on its own. And, you know, honestly, it's worth a lot more than that. But if you buy the Demystify Your DSLR course before midnight on Saturday night, you get that for free. But that is a bonus just for people who have committed to doing this, to purchasing quickly, and it's a special bonus. That this class just went out to my list, so I want to do something special for y'all for listening. Basically, what I want you to know is that I'm going to be there holding your hand every step of the way. I really want to encourage you that you don't have to learn all this photography stuff on your own. I will help you to get the best out of your camera and take some really, really awesome photos. And I've been teaching for online for a long time, and I really think that this combination of, you know, the one-to-one, the group calls, the online classes that you can do at your own pace is going to be the very best demystify your DSLR class. So go now, don't delay, just hurry up and hop along to demystify your DSLR. Let me pop it in here. DemystifyyourDSLR.com and click the buy now button, and you will get immediate access to your course. Then I'll email you at some point and we will get together on when we are going to have your Skype call. And it's up to you. Like I said, you can have it at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, whatever you want, but I will be honoring those for a month or two. We'll see how we get on, probably until the end of July, and that way that'll give you plenty of time to get finished the class and, you know, get shooting, get practices, and see where your issues are. When you click on the pay now button, you'll get brought to this PayPal screen. You can, if you've got a PayPal, you can pay by PayPal. If you don't, this pay with debit or credit card button will allow you to just use your debit or credit card. It's all safe, it's all secure. There's no problems with that. And if anybody has any issues with that, they can, and still want to take the class, you can certainly send me an email and I will talk to you about how we can figure that out. So again, the class, the title of the course is Demystify Your DSLR. You've got two Y's coming together in the middle of the name. And that is all I have for you tonight. So thank you all so much for being a part of this webinar. It has been so much fun, and I really truly enjoyed teaching this one. And we never know, we may do another one in the near future, but I think you'll agree that there's plenty of content. There will be a replay. And if you have any questions on anything we've covered, or working with me, or doing any of my classes, just drop me a line, ingrid@camerashy.info, or PM me on Facebook, and let's get you cracking at capturing great memories this summer. Thank you.